You're listening to They Shoot Films with Ken Mercer and F.T. Kosempa.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to They Shoot Films. I'm Ken Mercer, and I'm here, as always, with the great F.T. Kosempa. F.T., how are you?
I'm doing well, Ken. How have you been?
Well, this is the third episode of They Shoot Films, and quite a milestone. I remember before the first one, they said, "Oh, they'll never do a podcast," and then we did the first one, and then they were like, "They'll never make it to a second podcast," and then we did a second one, and then now's the third one. Which they said we couldn't do, but now I think I'm the one who I don't know. I don't think we
exactly. I don't know if we could do a fourth.
So thank you. We appreciate all of you listening to.
Yes. So where are we, buddy?
So we're here to talk about the 2023 film directed by Alexander Payne called The Holdovers. Do you have any recollections of the first time you saw the Holdovers, FT?
You mean recollections relating to the film, or
no?
Yes,
actually,
yes,
do you remember where you were when you first saw the Holdovers?
In
where
the same spot where I've been when I saw the film 3 times now. Yes, it was in my living room.
So you're quite
a world traveler.
You're quite anti-nomadic, you would say.
Yes.
I'm
a villager, as they say, as Benjamin would say.
This was actually, seeing this film was even though I think, and I heard an interview with I actually heard a couple interviews with Alexander Payne, and he talks about, he was asked what are his favorite, his most important memories of seeing films, and he said all of them were in movie theaters. And I think would you say the same for you, FT, that most of the most important films you've seen you viewed in a theater, or would you say your equal experiences at home?
Equal at home.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, on TV. Yeah.
Amazing.
Again, because of that experience when I was young, the freaky experience of being able to see foreign films on television.
Huh. Most of my important film memories are in theaters, but this is a rare one at home, and it kind of came out of a dark period for me. So this film came out November 2023, and right around that time, I had an experience with a evil dentist who will go unnamed, and very much like the Laurence Olivier character in Marathon Man, and he drilled a tooth without using water cooling technology, which is an important part of the process. And when he did this, I could smell like burning bone.
Yeah.
And I'm shrouded in smoke in the dental chair, choking on it, and. After that, and this was right before Thanksgiving of 2023, and I was just in incredible pain, couldn't sleep, just incredible,
terrible.
Constant tooth pain. And as you know, tooth pain is not fun pain.
Unlike other pain.
Yes.
Like Alexander Payne.
Exactly. No, that's fun. I didn't make that connection. So now, it's the holidays. My daughter's staying with us, and typical holidays, and the weather's bad, so we're watching a lot of movies, as I think a lot of people do over the holidays, and it's kind of exciting because I hadn't seen any of the new, the Academy Award candidate movies. Hadn't seen any of them, and so they're all stacked up to watch over the holidays, and I hated every one of them. Hate is a strong word. Wouldn't you agree, FT?
You dislike them a lot. Yeah, hate it. Yes.
I don't think that's strong enough, but hate's too strong. But, all the films that were talked about as being so great. Anatomy of a Fall, I saw that one. American Fiction, I saw that one. And then the one I'd most been looking for and, paid, I bought it as soon as it came out, knowing it was going to be so great, and was bitterly disappointed, was Marty Scorsese's
film,
Killers of the Flower Moon, which I was so excited for and disappointed me greatly. And I was like, man, is it just because I'm feeling the pain is making it so I can't connect with film? Are these films bad, or is it a dental side effect, side effect from the dentistry? And I was just more and more miserable. And then finally watched The Holdovers, and from the first frames,
Yeah.
I just relaxed in. I was like, I felt so comfortable. I was like, man, I'm in good hands. And I just relaxed into it and really, really loved it, which was surprising because I wasn't loving anything. And then rewatching it for this podcast, I think I liked it and appreciated it even more. How about you, FT?
Same here. More viewings. It's so many.
Wait a second. You had your tooth drilled when you say same here.
Well, I did my own drilling.
And by the way, thank you for being so agreeable. I appreciate that.
I was inspired by you, so I did some self-dentistry. And so I had to, because I was trying to feel your pain, and be as empathetic as possible. But no, what happens is that so many things are revealed in this film upon multiple viewings. It seems that we've been looking at a number of films like that by the third time last Sunday, recent Sunday, I was just seeing stuff like, for example, I'll give you one example. That young Ollerman kid, he's in the chorus in that very calming beginning of the vocals, of O Little Town of Bethlehem. I didn't notice that the first two times, but the little kid, the young Mormon child, is
right.
one of the members there. So that happens throughout this film. There's a number of things which are incredible.
Yes. So The Holdovers,
Yes.
only the second film that Alexander Payne has made that he hasn't written with his writing partner Jim Taylor. This film, Alexander Payne said he borrowed the concept from a 1935 French film, Merluce. Have you ever seen that, FT?
No.
And the concept is the concept of the holdovers, a boys' boarding school, and the boys are stuck there with a hated teacher who smells that smells bad and has a glass eye.
How about that?
Yeah, and so Payne talks about that. He loved the concept and was like, "Oh, I want to do that." And it was just one of these ideas that were kicking around that he never got a chance to pursue. And then he got a script from David Hemmingson David Hemmingson had written for a TV pilot about, I think, boarding schools in New England or something. And Alexander Payne read it and said he didn't want to do the TV pilot, but he called up Hemmingson and said, "Hey, would you be interested? I don't want to do this pilot, but would you, this world of boarding schools, and would you be interested in writing a movie of this concept?" And Hemmingson said he would indeed be interested in writing it.
Do they work together? Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, it's interesting. A couple of good question, FT. A couple interesting things. One, it's funny when you listen to Alexander Payne get interviewed. He's like, "So I asked David Hemmingson if he would, write this for me," and I couldn't. He's like, "I couldn't believe." Yeah, he said he would. Which was interesting. Payne is a kind of a self-effacing, down-to-earth guy, which is nice.
Like me.
But yes, so he said he asked Hemmingson to write it, and Hemmingson would send drafts, and Payne said he would give specific notes, and then at a certain point,
write some scenes.
Yeah, Payne said, "Well, okay, we're there. I want to take a whack at it now," and apparently did a pass on it. But again, to Payne's credit, he didn't. To Payne's credit, he didn't take a writing credit on the screenplay.
Right.
Even though I think it sounds like he did enough that he could have gotten credit.
I did look at some of what's the name of the author again? Hemming.
The writer is David Hemmingson.
Hemmingson. Yeah, I did look at some of his. The one thing I checked on his credits because I was, this script is so incredible. The script is so dense. I mean, or complicated rather, and it's beautiful. And I was surprised to see his other work. which seemed to be mainstream at the most generous.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and it's interesting. There's stuff you can find. There's some dirty laundry about. There was a British screenwriter who had some credits and was a WGA guild member who filed an action with the WGA saying that they had his script had been plagiarized, and it's available online where he lists like a legal case, specific scenes, specific lines. And I was like, when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, that sounds not good. But then I got the thing he had filed with the Writers Guild where he laid this all out. And when I looked at it, I was like, no, this seems like this could be, what often happens with creative things, that people get the same. I didn't see the smoking gun he was claiming.
You know what I would have done? I would have run him over until he shot himself.
Sorry, who would you? Everyone you would have run. Who would you have run over?
The English fellow who claimed plagiarism. I would have run him over in a car.
You're making a joke, right?
I think I am. A reference to the film. To the film.
Yeah, no, he was. Oh, right. I missed that went over my head, and I bet you it went over the audience. Yes. So explain. I'll explain for you, FT. Yes, in the film, Paul Hunnam, the character played by Paul Giamatti, says he was so upset about being framed for plagiarism. Yes, good one, FT. That was so subtle. It went.
I know
that he wanted to run the accuser, the false accuser, over with a car.
Well, he claims it was accidental. The guy got in his way.
Oh, right. He actually did it right.
Right, and he broke ribs. But the beautiful thing was that he pooped himself.
Right.
And that's when the guy at the liquor store goes, "Here you go, killer."
I know, which is such a great
bit. One of the best lines. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, that guy at the liquor store was the actual liquor store owner. Which
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
he looked like a Bostonian.
Yeah. Good one there, FT. But so subtle.
I know. It's a good one.
I've known you longer than the audience has, so I feel like I feel like I need to warn the audience that FT's humor has a half-life, and often with FT's jokes, you get them 3 days later. So I think we should walk through the film in chronological order, and just as we always do, and talk about what the things that caught our attention most. And you already, FT, talked about the opening title, the opening sequence, which I do think is worth talking about it. But I'll turn it over to you, FT. You were talking about the titles, etc.
Ken, I find them to be retro, and it wasn't cornball retro like Mulholland Drive, which annoyed me. These were
just can't let it go.
I hated it. And this, I was, at first I was like, oh no.
FT, I will say that you did say, when pressed, that you said it was on your Mulholland Drive was on your top 100 films list. You said it was 98. At 98.
if it made it, but I got the idea. It pointed the finger at where he was going. Except the only films that I would ever see that had color and that bad of a soundtrack were, just beat up 60 millimeter prints, usually of really older stuff.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. And of course, what we're talking about is the title starts with an MPAA rating card, which used to always be on film. I don't know if they're on there. I guess they're still on there beforehand. So a vintage MPAA card, rating card for the film. And they degraded the film with gate weave and dust on the print, and something else that was vintage there that screwed me big time. Like I said, the first time I viewed it in my living room, I did not have a problem. In my screening room, it really fucked me up. Do you know what I'm getting at here, FT?
No, I do not.
So the whole soundtrack is mono. The whole film is mono. I have the film on, and in the screening room, I have two stereo speakers on the left and right of the screen, and the screen is a flat screen TV that the speaker is turned off on. because the sound is going through the left and right speakers, and I start playing the film like, oh man, how did the TV sound get on? And I'm like, I get at the TV menu, and I'm like, because I've had problems with this TV. It's a Sony, by the way, and the Sony people in their infinite wisdom force updates on the TV. And the last time it did it, it changed the audio settings, and it basically like blew. It wreaked havoc. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turned out it was an update on the Sony. So I'm like, oh man, did Sony update? And it's a mono soundtrack.
How about that?
Yeah, and which is interesting too, because and really interesting. And we'll talk more about the music of the film, but the opening song. Let me sleep in the slumber. It sounds like it could be a song from the '70s, and it's not. It's a Damien Jurado song. But
oh yeah,
now it's in mono, and. Then the title sequence is quite long. I think it might be about 8 minutes or something of titles. And again, going back to my tooth suffering days, I when I watched this film the first time, the long title sequence you would think would have just made me say, oh man, another bad film, and focus on my tooth pain. But like I said, I was just instantly fell into the film, and part of it was. Just in the title sequence, the way the shots are framed and the editing, the pace of the editing,
yep.
I just knew I was in good hands and I could relax into it.
Yeah, you get Danny in there, shoveling. You get first the students, then you get Danny shoveling, then you get back to the students. So you have a parallel action going on back to Danny, and then the classic editing trick of cinema. We have Danny look up, and what's he looking up at? Cut to Paul's room.
Yep.
And that's how you make it inside to Paul. Yeah, no, I had the same thought about that. One problem with that opening, though, there's that, and it's an interesting, there's that my hated telephoto of the three young students coming, walking towards, us. But the interesting thing about that shot, which they never seem to get to their destination, is the fellow on the left of the three is a young black kid that sort of already introduces the idea of Curtis, coming up. Which I thought I didn't notice that at the beginning, obviously, because you don't know, but that's one of those payoffs you get, when you watch it again.
Yes, as you said, we get up to Paul Hunnam's room and. We're introduced to Paul. I think we first view him through a doorway, which is a technique that Payne uses throughout this film. We're constantly seeing characters through doorways, through windows, which serves to make the compositions much more interesting. But I also, right from the beginning, you start to see what I really admire Payne for, in that he never thrust things at the view. He never is, hey, look at this. I want you to see this. The way he frames shots and sets things up is the viewer finds things, discovers things in the frame that are important, and we get to do that right away. Like I said, first we have to look through a doorway to see our main character, as it turns out, but then we start seeing the shots of his meager campus apartment, and we see his bathroom, and we're looking at I think it's a medium shot of the sink and all these other things, but our eye definitely finds a tube of Preparation H.
Yes.
Which, another director, it would have been an insert shot of the tube of Preparation H, and he would have been saying, our guy's a tight ass, get it? Instead, the viewer discovers it, and because it's not an insert shot, we just take it in, and then the viewer, as the film goes on, say, I can see why this guy needs Preparation H. He's a tight ass.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. Now we need to take our break from our sponsor, Preparation H.
Product placements.
Yes.
That's supposed to be a tube, by the way.
Yes.
Yes. And I wonder if the Glade is in that shot. I didn't notice.
I think interesting. Yeah. Sorry. And later in the film,
I think they put that in there. Yeah. Later. The other thing I was going to add to you about him not finger pointing and being so obvious about stuff is that sometimes the payoff isn't immediate, and we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the very next scene, we're going to get to that.
Yes.
with with Paul.
Yeah.
It's also interesting musically. I agree with you. That 70s sounding, like Phil Oakes, almost like some great unknown folk singer, like Linda Prolex or somebody like that. That you hear, this song is great. Llewyn Davis, could have done it. And but then the cut inside is to Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto, the Emperor, the slow movement of that, which again is character defining. Because Paul is a classicist.
Right. As you are.
Well, kinda.
The one thing I neglected to mention, we were talking about the vintagey throwback look that Payne wanted for the film as a whole, but for the opening, is that he chose to shoot the film in a very strange aspect ratio of 1:6:6, which is a strange choice because was not the aspect ratio of choice in the 70s. And you should know, FT, I think it's more of a European format, 1:6:6.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, and so it's for the viewers who are having a hard time pulling up ratios in their heads. So it's more squared off. It's definitely the opposite of widescreen, in between 1:3:3 kind of TV aspect ratio, just a little wider than that. And Payne said he wanted to use that because he wanted the film to really be a series of portraits, and he felt like that more upright, squared-off aspect ratio would be more intimate for the characters and really be more portraity, which I think is true.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't super widescreen. I agree.
It's so weird that you say that because I was thinking about that. I trying to reimagine, just picture the film in my mind in widescreen, or even 1:8:5. I can't do it. It just feels wrong.
Yeah, a lot of stuff would not have worked. All those dinner scenes wouldn't have worked, in my opinion, at all. I mean,
The next scene that really that caught my eye was the scene in the dining hall, and what caught my eye was this very formal tracking shot. Almost Renoir-like tracking shot, very, very formal, but also caught my eye and stood out for me because Payne does not move the camera all that much, and when he does move the camera, it's always motivated, which I really appreciate. These days where you strap a Steadicam on a dude and just have him run when the camera moves, there's motivated moves, and they're always nice tracking shots. So that dining hall shot worked for me.
Yeah, me too. It's better than the long shot of just everybody,
Yeah.
It was really nice. And you got to see faces,
Yeah.
So you got to see who, what's the context, who are these young men,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and then I think it dissolves or it cuts to another tracking shot to the faculty.
Yep.
Right. And
yeah, no, there's a lot that gets transmitted in that because, as you said, we see the faces, we see the uniforms, we see the formality of the room, and it's all interesting because the camera's moving. Let me know if I'm skipping over anything you want to talk about, but I wanted to jump to the first dinner alone scene after the all the students leave for recess, except for the unfortunate holdovers and their first dinner scene in the dining hall alone. I wanted to talk about that.
I would just say one thing that when Tully gets called back in, but he's not going to St. Kitts. The one thing he says to his mother, but you promised would go to Boston and see Dad.
Oh, good one, FT. Yeah, I missed that. That's a good catch.
Me too.
Right? Yeah.
It wasn't until the third time on Sunday when I was like, wait, he mentions Dad already this early. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
No, it is. It's a good catch because clearly, under what is a character's objective. Angus's objective, as it gets revealed, his objective right from the beginning, and that's why it's great that you caught it there, is to go to Boston and see his father.
Yep.
And when his mom's not going to take him, he's going to find another way to do it.
One way or another. Yep.
Yeah. Isn't that a song? Please come to Boston. Is that a song?
I don't think so.
I think it is. It is.
Memphis. You can do Chuck Berry's song to Boston.
Anne Marie, try to see if there's a song. Please come to Boston. If there is, please cut it in to rub FT's face in it.
Boston for the springtime.
The first scene with them alone in the dining hall, just a quick thing that I thought worked really well. They pass around the food, and again, this is an example of Payne letting the viewer discover things but not sticking their nose in it.
Yep.
The plate that gets passed around, because of the colors of everything else in the plane and the scene, the asparagus just jumps out because it's green and everything else is monochromatic. So you take in asparagus without having it shoved in your face, and then Payne pays it off a few scenes later when the Korean student wets his bed, and Angus Tully helps him, reveals him. It's like the kick the I guess the opposite of the kick the cat scene, pet the cat scene. We see that Angus is the good guy to help the Korean student out with his pee, but then says, asparagus, the asparagus.
Yep.
Which is interesting because I rewatched Election the other night. Did you rewatch that, FT?
I didn't rewatch it, but I watched it again recently last month. Yeah, which I liked a lot more the first time. I detested that film. Oh, I really hated it. I don't know why.
Wait, you mean the first time you saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hate it. You hate everything.
No, not everything. I didn't hate this one. I didn't hate the Descendants either. It's interesting to point that out. Yeah.
It is. The audience should take notes that FT liked a couple of contemporary films. What's interesting with Election? Well, do you have the connection between Election?
No,
and
I don't.
Yeah. So in Election, Paul's sister and her girlfriend decide to do an experiment where they see how long after eating asparagus their pee will smell. So they're eating asparagus and timing their pee and smelling it. So it seems to be a theme somewhat with Alexander Payne.
Do you know it's a genetic thing?
Directors who are obsessed with asparagus.
With asparagus pee, but people that cannot, the people that their urine won't smell of asparagus. My neighbor.
That would be. Can you imagine? Why are there no charities for people whose pee doesn't smell after eating asparagus? That's heartbreaking.
But it falls within being the stoic. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those things that you cannot control. There's a health feature that you cannot control. You can't control whether your pee smells of asparagus or not. And speaking of which, this scene here,
before we go, I did want to, again, this is a film podcast, and if we can contribute to film theory and criticism, it's our duty to do so. So I realize that, again, Alexander Payne it's a consistent theme in his work of people eating asparagus and their pee smelling like having that asparagus pee smell, and I realize it's I'm blowing this, but it's the asparagus pea smell is to Alexander Payne's. Sorry, I need you to help me pronounce a word. Ove. Okay, here we go. Take 12. Take 12. The asparagus pea smell is to Alexander Payne's Ove, as the MacGuffin is to Hitchcock's. That's my theory. Contribution to film theory.
Excellent. I wonder now, I really want to go back and look at the downsizing. I wonder if they had little plants of little asparagus.
Right.
Seriously, because, it's a big deal, food. People look like food, in fact. They look like takeout. But anyhow, or airplane, when they would load up back in the day food. But are we still on the?
I can't go on because I'm just.
Got to pee.
I want to either. I think I want to write a novel. There should be a film. There should be a novel, or I'll write a novel and it'll get instantly purchased to be turned into a film. Why hasn't anybody done a film about a person whose pee they suffer from that, or pee doesn't smell like asparagus?
Because it is quite a handicap. It is.
How would you if you were writing the novel? How would the story go for you, FT?
Oh, I cannot have to really do some thinking.
Well, I think it's a tragedy.
I think you have something up your sleeve, though.
Well, no, you would probably see it as a comedy. I see it as a tragedy where, it probably starts in like the scene where, the protagonist let's make it a man. And I'm sorry, but I'm seeing the protagonist is a man. Undergoes a battery of grueling tests. It's like the opening. The scenes in The Exorcist where the girl goes through these horrible CAT scans. Injected with dyes, and we see all these doctors in white coats staring at these X-ray screens and the CAT scan screens, and then finally the scene where the doctor with the grim face walks in and says, "I have some bad news." And the protagonist, of course, would say, "Just give it to me straight."
Straight, doc.
And he says, "Well, you suffer from a rare disease where your pee, you can eat asparagus and your pee won't smell." And then we cut to, of course, the scene in the bar where he's drinking, and the bartender says, "Sorry, I'm cutting you off. You don't understand. My pee doesn't smell like asparagus." And the bartender's a hard, it's probably set in Boston. He says, "Don't sound like a problem to me." Sorry, that wasn't a good Boston accent.
Excellent Boston accent.
Right. But of course, the tragedy is he dies from eating too much. He has no protective. The reason your pee smells like asparagus is a protective. It's an evolutionary device to keep you from eating too much asparagus. Since he lacks that, he eats too much asparagus and dies. It's a classic tragedy.
It is. Because it is quite a handicap.
I want to jump to, and if I jump over anything you want, FT, sorry. No, just a minute.
Too bad.
Christmas party.
Yeah, let's. I have a few things to say before that, real quick.
Okay.
One is when Allerman, the little Mormon, I was going to say the LSD kid, the LDS kid.
Right.
I found it puzzling that he threw his glove away.
Wait, that who threw his glove away?
That Allerman, first his one glove is taken, that Kuntz takes it.
Oh, right.
But then, the young fellow walks a distance to throw it in the river, which struck me as odd. And,
well, it's hugely symbolic. Obviously, that you can't throw a glove in the same river twice. No.
See, Willard Van Orman Quine, a good Harvard, would argue with that, right? Because you can't walk into the same waters twice.
Right. Actually, I didn't have a problem with it because I saw the LDS kid, as you call him.
No, Allerman. Let's use his name. Allerman. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Allerman. I took that he took to heart. So who says to him, "Oh man, that fucker"?
Tully.
My glove's gone.
Twisted fucker orphaned that glove on purpose. Left you with one so the loss would sting that much more.
Right. So that Allerman takes Tully's advice to heart and realizes, the one glove. Well, I mean, one is a practical matter, unless he went for a voluntary
glovectomy
amputation. The one glove would not be worth it. Would not be worthwhile to him. But the other thing was he took Tully's philosophical thing to heart, which is, man, if you have and sorry, you got me going now, FT. It's a meditation on loss, and that's where Tully, having that one glove is always going to be making him think about the lost glove, and clearly there are things in Tully's life that are making him think about his lost father.
True. Yeah. I found it interesting, though, that he simply didn't start looking for it.
By the way, welcome to another edition of the Lost Glove Podcast. Let's keep going.
And, I just found it interesting that the choice was, and it's one of the weak spots for me in the script, one of the few weak spots. There's another one. But it's that the kid just doesn't look for it, which I found to be odd.
I thought he did.
No, he just, he goes and looks for it and goes like, "It's not there." And I'm like, all right, whatever. It's not like he anyhow, but.
Oh, it's not. The joke would be. It's not like he recruited everybody else to perform a grid search.
well, where's my glove? Everybody was, it's cold. I just found it odd. But the joke would then be, again, with set up and releasing or whatever, set up and paying off.
Yes.
When the Christmas cookies, when Paul, on Christmas Day, which is after the scene you want to talk about, but, when he's there in the kitchen with Mary and with Tully, and he brings out the Christmas cookies. What Christmas cookie does he bite into?
I thought that was significant, and
but it isn't.
Oh, it's not?
It is.
Okay,
it is.
go.
It's very significant.
Okay, go.
It's a red mitten.
Are you serious?
I'm fucking, yep, I'm fucking A serious. It's a red mitten.
Oh, man. You know,
How about that?
These people get $300 million to make friggin' superhero movies on green screens, and there you go with...
Simple.
Yeah, simple.
Brilliance.
Paying attention to details. Yeah. Wow.
Jeez.
Good one.
I lost it. Yeah.
Good one,
yeah,
FT.
I lost it.
Every time I'm tempted to make this a solo podcast, you prove your worth.
I have to watch the movie 19 times and I lie. Oh, my third viewing. 33rd.
No, that was good, FT.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
So can we move on to the Christmas party?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, a great scene. Yeah.
Well,
great sequence.
Well, you beat me to it. When you said scene, I was about to jump on you. Say no, FT. It was a great sequence, and it really is. And I just would like to step through the greatness of it for the audience, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. Yes. So we see the group, the forced together group from Barton, show up very awkwardly in the foyer and welcomed in. And then Payne follows each of them on separate journeys through the party. Angus down into the basement where he gets to look down the niece's shirt. Mary, who gets to play DJ, playing all her greatest hits of songs that bring her to the verge of misery. And, of course, Paul, who it seems like he's ready to open up and find a woman, and then of course has his dreams dashed on the
doorstep.
Dashed on the doorstep, and then we follow them separately, and each one of those kind of an interesting little journey, and then they're suddenly brought back together when Angus says, Mr. Hunnam, you got to come in the kitchen, and we're now we're in this very small kitchen. By the way, we'll talk about in production design, everything in this film was a practical location. So they're in this kitchen, and Mary is crying, and they're forced together. Mr. Hunnam shuts the kitchen door, which is interesting. Very few kitchens have doors, and now they're just the three of them. The movie is about three people being forced together, and so now they're forced together again after they separated. And then they get outside, they leave the party, and then for me, the great fucking payoff is Paul. They get outside, and Giamatti says, "See, this is why I hate parties."
Yeah, exactly.
It's so.
Yes.
And it's so great because usually, you're writing a script, you're doing things you need a big line. It's such a small thing, but it's such, because of the, and the earlier setup where they're planning to go to the party and he sets up why he doesn't like parties and Mary, And by the way, then it keeps going. It gets to the point where she delivers her great line, which when we talk about the script, I'll get to. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but she...
You don't tell a boy that's been left behind at Christmas that you're aching to cut him loose, that nobody wants him? What the fuck is wrong with you? Let's go. Cold.
Yeah, and is that's the point, How isn't that the point? Or is that outside the...
What?
Where Tully says his father's dead. He says, I was having such a good time in there. Finally, I'm having a good time.
Right.
And, and he goes, I was begging your father, again, I mentioned a father, that, if he would come by helicopter or by flying saucer, and then that sequence ends with, my father's dead, which is a boing, plot point.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing interesting about this sequence is the snow globe, isn't it?
Yes. Go ahead. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Go for it.
Yeah, because that's another one of these setups and payoffs later on. Again, very subtly done. Yeah. You don't see Tully taking the snow globe, as you don't see earlier on when Paul's doing the rounds. You don't see Paul ever taking the Louis XIII, the expensive cognac.
Yes.
Yes. But it's also the snow globe is double resonance because then Paul has that at the bowling alley, that great, by the way, your Santa Claus outfit is all fucked up,
Yes.
Which was terrific stuff. Yeah. What else did you observe in there?
Well, I observed something significant, very significant. this is Citizen Kane. Remember this? It's the snow.
The
snow globe and
Yeah.
the snow globe in Citizen Kane, which is the trigger of what Kane lost. You know, his lost childhood.
You're right.
And
You're right.
And
Good one.
and this
Good one.
Angus. You know, because it's so. You know, it's the one time that Payne, I think, is sticking something. Because we see Paul Angus looking at that snow globe for so long, and I'm like. And I'm sitting there watching and saying, "What are you trying to? What is?" And I'm looking at it. And sorry, there's a couple of things there. One, the first thing I got to was, and it's very odd. It's of course a snow globe with Santa Claus, and what does he have with him? It's
I didn't.
There's
What?
You didn't see the other thing? It's Santa Claus and a lamb.
Oh, right. It's
And of
weird.
course it's the lamb thing is so Mary's lost son is Curtis Lamb,
The little lamb.
Yeah. So it's the lamb to slaughter.
Wow,
The
good one,
the
Ken,
innocence
good
of the
one.
lambs, the silence of the lambs.
Good one, good
so
one.
so there's lambs, but it's also as I said, it's Citizen. This is the snow globe in Citizen Kane, which of course famous. You know, it's the last thing Kane does on his deathbed. He shakes the snow globe, and then it rolls out of his hands, and the great Kane is dead. It's all about lost childhood, and this is what it's about for Angus. You know, the lost
indeed.
childhood.
And of the there's also also mentions of father again. That whole theme or aspect, as you would prefer to call it, is there. One of them is when the niece Elise,
Yes.
when she says about the quote of Picasso, "All children of artists," or something like that,
Right.
And he does, and the actor that plays Tully does that great imitation of Guernica.
Oh,
And
right.
he says,
yes.
"Well, I went to I saw the painting.
Right.
It's huge. My dad took me to MoMA."
Right.
So that was a good time prior to the 4 years ago before his father, got the early onset of dementia.
Yes.
The second father reference is when, all right, so wait. So the basement scene ends with she finally kisses Tully on the cheek. It cuts to, again, great stuff, editing, Lydia kissing Paul on the cheek.
Oh, nice.
And then Paul goes into the whole business about, in the underworld, I forget who it is. I don't have my notes there. But carrying mistletoe in search of his father.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's I was going to say Aeneas.
It's anus. It's Aeneas.
Right, Aeneas. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, sorry,
Yes.
that reminds me.
It's an anus.
Right. No,
A disembodied anus. It's your novel.
No. Sorry. Say it clearly for the audience. It's how do you say it?
I think Aeneas.
Right. From the Inferno. Right.
No, I don't know. I really don't know. It's not the Inferno. That's Dante. This is Greek.
Right. So it's
One of the Homer Odyssey
right,
or the
yeah,
Iliad,
right,
one
yes,
of the two.
yes.
I don't know. I've never read them. I keep them on my bedside table.
sorry. That was a Coen Brothers reference for the audience.
Inside the Coen Brothers joke.
They famously said after Brother, Where Art Thou, or after
One of the Odyssey movies.
Llewellyn Davis, which they're based on the Iliad or the Odyssey, and a reviewer asked Joe, I think it was Ethan or both of them, about and they're like, "Yeah, we have that book. We keep it on keep it on my night table, but I never read it."
Do they have like twin beds like when they were kids?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So what is Franny? Where does Franny live? Oh, she lives over yonder here sometimes, apparently.
Franny is the beard. Sorry.
Yes, maybe so.
Yes.
Oh, you're going to get sued now.
No. Well, society, unfortunately, society frowns on brothers who have homosexual relationships for some reason.
It's fucked up.
No, sorry.
Yes.
We apologize to Joe and Ethan Coen for implying that they're.
But we don't. You apologize. Oh, wait.
You took part in it.
I guess I did. I was just like, oh, man.
Note, Frank. Note to self.
Dear diary.
Never mention the Coen brothers. Then we're gonna do Barton Fink or something on the podcast, and it's gonna be odd because you'll refuse to mention the directors' names.
Those guys.
Yeah.
The brothers.
Yes. This is joking. We did not mean to.
Warning.
Coen
Warning.
brothers. I'd like to jump to the Boston restaurant scene. where you'll get to talk about your hatred for Zooms. Am I jumping off over something?
Yeah, we can just say a few things.
Go ahead.
We can just say a few things. The idea of like the monograph, Paul's monograph has been mentioned, when they were watching the Newlyweds game,
yes.
where, Mary goes, I know what a monograph is,
right.
You can't even dream a whole book,
right.
The monograph comes up here.
You can't even dream a whole dream.
A dream, right. And again, it's family, what you were saying, because now Tully becomes his nephew. And they play off that and, lie. But as Paul says, I have a right to my past. He doesn't.
Right.
Really, which is really great stuff. So there's a subtle thing. The monograph comes up, and it's a camera remember, it's a camera thing. The camera obscura in ancient times.
Yes.
The other thing is that again the subtlety of the script writing and/or Alexander Payne. When Paul, there's that awful snap zoom to the yellow cab, when they were watching the movie Little Big Man, right? But then Paul goes there and he says, well, of course we'll go to the cemetery. Now, a lesser director would have said something, but nothing. Cuts to the moving shot from in the car.
Right.
You see it's no cemetery.
Right.
Something else is going on here.
Right.
And if you've been to a place like that, like in Warren, Pennsylvania, you go, that's an asylum. I knew it immediately. I was just like, wow. Again, beautifully done. Yeah, so that's what I had to say about that.
And you bring up the Warren, Pennsylvania. I just want to say, FT, and just positive reinforcement. You've come so far since the days I've visited you at the sanitarium
in the Nut House,
in Pennsylvania, and
thanks, buddy.
And
I could have done it without you, though. But the candies and the snow globe you gave me, oh man!
But sorry, you did. There's so many themes we could touch on in this podcast if we weren't limited to it only being 6 hours in length.
And jokes,
right.
Coen Brothers
if
jokes.
We didn't prioritize the jokes, but clearly and obviously, and sorry to bring, the other theme is the past. And the history in the past, and are we stuck in, is our future dictated by et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
As he says,
right.
it's a conceit of the Greeks.
Yes.
The Greeks, a literary conceit, where again Paul is actually fathering the son.
Yep.
At that point, because the boy's going like, do I have any control over myself?
Yes.
Yes. Again,
that's the restaurant scene I'm waiting to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you're jumping ahead. After forcing me backwards, you're now jumping ahead, and I'm getting whiplash here. So can we go to the Boston?
Yes, go to the Boston? Luckily you have reverse gear, which my Volvo got it back. Did I tell you?
Wow.
Reverse is working again. How about that?
Yes. So that the Boston restaurant scene, again, if you would indulge me, I'd just like to lay out the shot design, which is pretty brilliant there. So we were previously in the mental hospital. Now we're on a very close, very, very extreme close-up of Angus's face as he's talking. And as you said, he's talking about his father, and his father used to be okay, and then he slipped away, and the history of his father's decline, and then his fear that he was going to end up the same way. It's a monologue, and the monologue starts on Angus's face. We don't know where we are, and as we slowly zoom back, sorry about this, FT, we see that we're in a restaurant, and also it's very clever if you rewatch it. There's no ambient sound on, and the sound as the camera zooms back, the sound of the restaurant comes in just as the restaurant is revealed. So I thought that was nicely done, and unfortunately, under the category of no idea, there's nothing new under the sun. And Payne admits it. It's the opening shot of The Godfather. We start on Marlon Brando very tight behind his desk, and I think in The Godfather he actually pulls back, not zoom, might actually be a zoom there, and we see he's in the study, and we've got the Undertaker there about America, and Payne admits he borrowed it from Coppola.
just one note. I'm not against zooming. I'm against snap zooming. Zooming has to be done with a slight move, and that's, that was indistinguishable from a tracking back for me. I mean, it was done well. I'm saying, it's the snap zooms and the telephoto that drives me crazy. It shows a sign of an amateur filmmaker.
But as you noted, Alexander Payne used a snap zoom, so you're calling Alexander Payne an amateur filmmaker. You've called Joel and Ethan Coen homosexual brothers.
That's you.
Okay, FT. Well done.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well done. Nice guy. Real nice, FT.
No, that was a 70s conceit
right,
that Payne was doing. He's making it a 70s movie, but he's snap zooms, and all that shit. It's just like stupid. So in the restaurant, yes, so continue.
Oh, wait. Yeah, so I have your quote here. I actually wrote it out, so I'm going to read it. So Paul says, and it's so relevant to the film, but it manages to be relevant to the film without being on the nose, and it's so, you're able to do it because he sets up, Paul's a ancient history teacher, and they're going, so it's so set up for Paul to be able to say to Angus, after he laments, being afraid of turning into a mental patient like his father. Is that? Can I say that these days? Is that?
Yes.
I can say mental patient.
You just said it.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
You didn't say a raving lunatic or a nut.
Right. Paul says to him, "I know the Greeks had the idea that the steps you take to avoid your fate are the very steps that lead you to it. But that's just a literary conceit. In real life, history does not have to dictate your destiny." And it's, it resonates on so many levels because, of course, my reading of the film, which you're disagreeing with, is Paul is completely trapped. Up to the ending of the film, he's completely trapped by his history because of the incident at Harvard and getting thrown out of Harvard. He retreats to his boarding school when he's a kid and has been there for 30 years, shuts himself off from the world. And so his history has dictated his destiny up to the point where he breaks free of it at the end of the film.
Right. I'm always urging you, Ken, to have more flexibility and multiple interpretations, but
I wish I did have more flexibility. No, seriously, that's why I keep getting injured.
It's interesting that what he says here is in contradiction to what he says in the museum, where one of those other great echoed lines is like, if you, when Tully says to him that everybody hates you and that whole thing, and then Paul echoes that at the bowling alley, everybody, everybody hates you. But he says there that history explains the present.
Yes.
So it's just interesting, that one kind of history, public history explains the present, the world events, political history, but personal history does not determine destiny. And of course, that leads to the next thing with the whole great business about Cherry's Jubilee.
Oh, wow. FT, what a segue. That's exactly where I wanted to go talk about next. It's in the restaurant scene. But why don't you set up for the audience who hasn't seen the film that we've ruined the film for here? Just quickly say what's the Cherry Jubilee scene in the restaurant?
Well, are you're all happy? You're done. How about dessert? You leave room, and Tully goes, "How about that? I want that over there." And it shows the cherries being lit up with booze, with cognac probably, I think, or brandy. And then the waitress goes, "No, you can't have that. It's your underage." And then, how about we'll share it? Nope, you can't even do it. I don't. You can't, blah blah blah. He can't even be at the table. He's not over 18. Right. And I think Massachusetts was 21 because that would account for it being a little more like uptight,
So thank you for setting up the Cherry's flambé, which Jubilee, which is a flambé, as the French would say. Do you know what the term flambé comes from, FT?
Yes.
Please tell us.
No, I refuse. I don't want to. You set it on fire? No,
it's from Pierre Flambé.
Who set himself on fire?
Accidentally.
Really? And burning off a dish?
Well, he was known. You said that's why it was so funny. You said they put cognac. They used brandy because cognac would obviously be expensive to just light on fire. So Pierre Flambé was a noted cognac drinker in France, but also a fiendish cigar smoker. And then one day the
way. Really?
The cigar flame met the cognac flame, and he was also he was known for wearing he was known for wearing some of the finest velour in all of Paris, and so he went up in flames.
Not in political protest either. Now we've hit the Buddhists.
Yes.
Now we've gotten the Buddhists. All right, go.
That was actually one of the funny little subtle lines when Tully says to the Korean kid about after he's I'll help you cover this up because if they find out you're going to be crucified, which is kind of ironic since you're a Buddhist.
Yes.
Sorry. So you so nicely set up the cherries flambé, and that beautiful setup is wasted since it was 2 hours ago now.
Yes.
So I'd like to talk about that scene as a great example of text and subtext.
Well, go right ahead, buddy.
Okay. So the text is obviously he wants Cherry's Jubilee, and he can't get it because he's not 18 or 21 yet. And the subtext is miles deep here. Sorry, what? Why are you laughing?
Feet deep, yards deep,
right.
miles deep.
Yeah, no, I think the subtext is miles deep because what it says without having the fucking monologue or dialogue about it is the pain of being that age where you have no agency. So he has no agency.
Yeah.
He can't even have, because it's not just the Cherry's Jubilee. What his big mission throughout the whole movie is to drink a Miller High Life. As you know, the champagne of beers. I mean, it's ongoing. He just wants to drink a beer. He can't do that. He can't friggin' have Cherry's Flambé. Yet he's old enough to have to deal with a father who's in an insane asylum and a mother who's basically trying to get as far away from that father, just forgetting the father as fast as she can, and by that method, getting rid of the son. So he's old enough to have to deal with all those very adult.
Plus the threat of going to military school and Vietnam.
Yes. So he's old enough to deal with all those very adult problems, but has no agency and can't even have a Miller High Life or Cherry's Flambé. So I felt there was a lot of a lot going on there without having it said.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So now you're agreeing that the subtext is indeed miles deep, which you laughed at before.
No, I think it was a couple meters deep. 6 feet under, as it were.
Yes, and again, I applaud you for trying to cater to the international audience with your meters. Yeah,
well, I have to make up for all the other shit we've been saying. So
The next scene I want to talk about is Hunnam getting axed, and really the sequence there, which but one shot in particular. So we see the setup is Angus sitting on this window seat outside the headmaster's office, Hunnam being summoned just like he was at the beginning of the movie by Lydia Crane.
The bookends, yes.
Well, it's actually not. I don't think it's the complete bookend. I'm going to talk about the bookend, but it's an echo. He gets summoned again, and somewhat bookends, but you'd have to envision. Well, you'd have to envision a shelf of a collector that has so many books on the shelf he needs multiple bookends. So yes, it's a bookend before the.
Well, wait,
end
Ken. Let me just say this. All right, you have Lydia coming down the hall to Paul's office, knocking on the door and saying the headmaster wants to see you. So the first time it's the bad news about, and the second time it's almost identical, but the bad news is different. So that's all I meant. That's pretty much a beginning. That's a repeat. That's that's an echo. Yes.
As I said,
a bookend.
I believe I said.
No, you went no. It's not a bookend. Exactly.
I believe what I said, and we have it on tape. I said, I don't think it's a bookend. I think it's an echo, which is what you just said. But nevertheless, so we set up that Hunnam is called into the principal. And we see Paul get summoned, and as he walks towards headmaster's office. We see Angus sitting on the window seat, which Paul's like, uh-oh, what's up here? And then we have the scene inside the headmaster's office where Paul sacrifices himself for Angus. But I'd like to talk about how well done what happens outside in the hallway is. One shot locked off. We see, again, in a medium wide shot, Angus sitting on the window seat. Mary walks in from the left side of the frame, sees Angus there, looks at him, crosses, sits down next to Angus, again, all in one shot, sits down next to him on the bench seat. And I believe it's all still in one shot. They have dialogue, what's going on, and he says, I'm going to get sent to military school.
Very little. I think that's all it said.
That's all that has to be said, because then
Exactly.
we are able to, again, the audience is able to find Mary, not in close-up, which another director would have done, but still in this wide shot. And we see the look on Mary's face, and we get to enjoy what audiences enjoy, which is, oh, I know what the character is thinking. And, of course, she's thinking about her son.
Like my boy.
Who died in Vietnam, and we see it on her face. And then what happens is she slowly extends her hand to Angus. He takes her hand, and that's it. And I believe it's all in one shot, and it's, again, super powerful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And really well done.
Yeah, beautiful.
FT, trivia question for you. Why are you laughing? Are you scared? Is it a scared laughter?
Wait, I'm guessing it's a number 41.
No. So it's a multiple layered trivia question. What is the name of the military school where Angus is going to be sent to?
God damn it! I forgot to write it down.
It's
what is
Fork Union.
Fork or Fort?
Fork.
F-O-R-K?
Yes. Which is a real military school.
In Virginia?
I don't know where it is. FT, please name at least one famous graduate of Fork Union Military Academy. He's an actor.
George Clooney. No.
He was in Citizen Kane. I'm serious. It's an actor from Citizen Kane.
Agnes Moorehead.
Come on, be serious.
No, you tell me. I hate this.
Joseph Cotton was a graduate of Fork Union Military Academy.
How about that?
Another Citizen Kane.
No, that was really that was a good 1.5
No, it
minutes.
is. No, it is, because, again, we've got the Citizen Kane reference. Joseph Cotton.
You're right. Yeah.
Does Fork Union just end up being in the script by accident? No, it all ties together. Let's now jump to the ending of the film. We see Hunnam, the very ending. I'd like to jump to. I know we can talk about the goodbye scene, but let's skip over that.
No.
And we see what?
No, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Except, it's funny though. I mean, know, because he wants to skip, and it's moving. It's really well done. It's acted beautifully.
Yes. And what's interesting, and it's not my observation, I think Payne talked about it, or somebody talked about it. When Paul and Angus say goodbye to each other, it's very 70s, correct, in that they do not hug.
That's right. They shake hands like men.
Well, it's a little. If you watch Giamatti, I think it's Giamatti, he kind of almost is looking like he's going to go in for a hug, and then he shakes hands. But
yes, he's almost crying. I mean, he tears up. They both do. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
But the very ending with Hunnam in his car at the intersection of the road, goodbye is getting a little bit emotional, and Payne buys it off with, we reveal that he's got the stolen bottle of cognac, which, by the way, I was reading is worth like $20,000 today. It was worth $1,300 at the time the movie takes place, and he takes a swig out of the bottle of cognac. Now there's another Alexander Payne film that ends with Paul Giamatti taking a swig out of a bottle of wine as the final act.
Oh,
do you know what that is?
Right. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
Can you say it?
No.
Is it sideways? Sideways? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So interesting. So not only I think is it great that Payne has so many themes and connections and echoes in a film, but that he echoes and has conversations between his films.
True. And so, question: why does he spit it out?
I wonder. I wonder if that's a great question, FT, and it's the kind of question we rely on you to you.
I'm paid to ask. I'm not paid to ask.
No, you ask the hard questions that others I wonder.
Pussyfoot around about.
I wonder because I didn't like that he spit it out, and now I wonder if Giamatti spits the wine out at the end of. I think he does at the end of Sideways. So
I think he does.
I think that was an error then for Payne to try to echo Sideways. He fucked up the end of this movie.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's again, talk about your 14-mile deep subtext. This is not too deep, but
it's an act of getting even with that. He's spitting out.
It's rebellion, and then it's also, like the ancient, the thing that you spit out a bad taste. Where it comes from, but you do it once. It's symbolic, but it's also not Jim Beam.
Right, his drink of choice. His drink of choice.
Yeah, his drink of choice.
And sorry, didn't that used to be your drink of choice back in the 80s?
Yabba dabba doo. The king is gone.
What?
Yes, George Jones in that great song.
Okay.
Is pouring Jim Beam into a Flintstone jelly jar.
Huh. So was Jim Beam your drink of choice?
Yes,
it was.
Yes.
What did you like about it?
I don't know.
I just set you up there because what you're supposed to say when I said, "What did you like about Jim Beam?" You're supposed to take a long beat, which you did, and then say everything. What is that from? What movie is that from?
We'll look it up.
From the creator of Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous, rated R, now playing everywhere.
And Marie, if you're listening, if you can find that film, plug that clip in.
So Russell, what do you love about music? To begin with, everything.
Yeah, it's really ringing a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. Which reminds me of the great disco song "Ring My Bell" by Anita Ward.
What's going on with you, man? With this?
What? What?
What does a song reminding you of a song? What song reminds you of a song? Let's get meta here, man.
You're just jealous that I'm so sharp today, and I'm just all my synapses. I'm finding connections everywhere.
Yes.
Why don't we jump ahead to some of the department heads' cinematography? The cinematographer is Eigil Brild. Are you familiar with his other work, FT?
You mean every film by? Does he shoot most of?
No, he's never worked with Alexander Payne before. But Payne first noticed him because he had shot a film in Bruges. Do you remember that film?
I never saw that film. You told me to see it. It's one of the things.
No, I never told you to see it. But he had shot in Bruges. He's a Danish. He's from Denmark.
Which most Danes are.
Much like the Shakespeare character Hamlet.
But I love your line. He's Danish. He's from Denmark.
Well, no, wait.
Sorry.
Not all Danes are from Denmark.
Danish. Not all Danish comes from Denmark.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect.
So he shot in Bruges. He shot the first 9 episodes of House of Cards. So I got to work with Fincher, who I think did the first 3. The great James Foley, I think, did two with Eigil during those episodes. FT, name a favorite James Foley film.
I don't know who that is.
Yes, you do. You just don't think you do. Yeah. So he did a film I know you like a lot, and maybe someday we'll be able to cover on this podcast. After Dark, My Sweet was directed by James Foley. I know you like that one. We've spoken about it. Carl Franklin was one of those episodes that Eigil did with. For House of Cards, Carl Franklin, Devil in a Blue Dress, plus tons of TV work since then. But a little-known film that I'd like to call out, and again, another film that I know you've seen, FT, because we've discussed it. David Chase, the creator of The Sopranos, did a film which I like quite a lot called Not Fade Away, that I think Igor Brill did
nice.
Again, a period film now that's set in the 60s that Igor shot. So I really like I love his work on Not Fade Away. I think it's spectacular, and I really like his work on this film.
Yeah, I agree. I love the palette. The color palette was, and as I remarked, it was so watchable partially for me because, and when you said the aspect ratio was different, I was really glad. I remember thinking I was really glad it wasn't super widescreen, 1/181 or anamorphic. I was really glad it had a contained feel. It was beautiful, beautifully shot. There was just some direct, some other choices like the stupid mandatory skating scene, with Cat Stevens, but otherwise, and the snap zooms.
Well, we're going to talk. I want to talk about that when we talk about music. I think it looks great. Interesting. Would you say this film is shot on digital or on film negative, FT?
I wouldn't be able to tell these days, honestly. But my intuition was film. Yeah,
interesting story. So they did tests on 35 negative. They did tests on 16 negative. And what Payne said is the modern stocks are so tight that it didn't have the right look, and that he got the look he wanted with grain by shooting digital and adding grain in post.
How about that?
Which he did. Yeah, he said he couldn't see the grain on modern stocks, even 16.
Even when they blew it up, they did tests and they blew it up, and they still didn't. He wasn't happy.
This is what Payne said. This is what Payne said, but he also saved a bunch of money. So who knows?
Exactly.
Interesting too in that shot on digital. So shot with an Arri camera, with an Arri Alexa camera, but with Panavision lenses. They use the Panavision H series lenses, which are vintage glass rehoused in modern bodies. But interesting because I don't know any. I've never worked with a cinematographer who mixed. The cinematographers are usually Arri cinematographers or Panavision cinematographers, and they have those relationships. So interesting mix of Panavision and Arri.
That's unusual. Yeah.
Any further thoughts on cinematography? Igor Brill.
No, except my oft-repeated hatred of snap zooms. But we can move on.
And as I always say to you, you can't hang that on the cinematographer.
Well, as I always say to you, the cinematographer could go. I don't think so, Alex. But anyhow.
And the director could say,
"You're fired."
Fired.
Right? And so then the cinematographer says, "Okay, I'll shoot it," but anyhow,
right,
which is usually what happens. Yeah.
Yes, I'll shoot it. I'll shoot it, but. So anyway, I wouldn't hang it on poor Igor Brill, who, after all, is one of the rare Danes
from Denmark.
I wonder if his urine smells after he eats asparagus.
I was just wondering if a fish.
Right. Production design. Ryan Warren Smith. Your thoughts on production design?
I thought it was great. It was beautiful. It was functional. Great locations. And you said this was all shot in location?
100% practical locations,
how about that?
which is a rarity and
it's a miracle. That's a miracle.
Incredible. I thought. I mean, even down to that kitchen where Mary breaks down, the appliances in the kitchen, great locations. One detail that I think speaks for the greatness of the production designer and the set decorator. When Mr. Hunnam is packing up his apartment, you can see his desk in the background, the desk where we first saw him writing, and we see the outline of the blotter, the desk blotter, which has been packed up and removed, and we see where it was because there's dust around where the blotter was, and the wood around it is faded.
Nice.
But where the blotter, so those details are what separates the good from the great, or the bad from the good, or the mediocre from the poor. Interesting too. I heard Payne talk about how the production designer and the set decorator, the desk, Hunnam's desk that Paul Giamatti had to sit at, they loaded up with period-correct office supplies. Period-correct staplers, everything,
right.
Notebooks, which they said, they put there, and Giamatti talked about how it helped him. He could, to get in character, he could open the desk and pick up a vintage stapler, and it helped him get in character. And again, that's kind of what separates the great production designers, set decorators. I remember a story about Dean Tavoularis, Coppola's production designer. When he was doing Hammett, he built Frederick Forrest had to go into a closet and pull out a coat in his apartment, and it was a set. And he just had to open the door, pull out a coat. Tavoularis insisted on building this closet and then lining it with cedar. And his rationale was, I want the actor, to feel like when he smells that cedar, it's going to make him feel like he's back in the 40s or whenever Hammett was set.
Yeah, well, good for him. Because a little spray wouldn't hurt, but whatever. That's what I feel.
As I said, FT, it's what separates the great from the good, and you can choose what category you fall into. But you're
no. I'm just saying, a waste of budget money, and particularly on a film like Hammett, there was so many problems in that thing, which could have been a great film.
Next time you're in Northern California visiting me, I'll take you to one of Francis Ford Coppola's properties, and I don't think you'll feel like he's missing the money he spent on cedar.
I'm not saying that he's missing it personally. I just think for a production, that film had troubles. And that's a kind of, I think, excess of a production designer. I mean, for that.
There's an old saying, FT.
What's that?
Nothing succeeds like excess. What'd you think of the music supervisor's work on this?
Pretty much really, really fantastic. The choice of songs. What I really, really noted is that scene at the Christmas party when Paul is flirting finally with Lydia, and there's chemistry there. When she gets up then to kiss her boyfriend, what's the song playing?
No Matter What You Are by Badfinger?
No, it's...
What?
No, it's the happiest time of the year, and it's his look of dejection.
Right, yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, what a great music. Because that would be a song that would be playing. That wasn't Artie Shaw,
Right.
And that was a nice little screen, a cross between the screenplay and music, to have Curtis be an Artie Shaw fan, was terrific. Terrific, I thought. Yeah.
What is there anything I need to know why it's great that Curtis was an Artie Shaw fan?
Well, just because he was a young man of varied taste. Just didn't listen to the popular music of the time. That he had some interest in other stuff. So he had taste.
Yes. In your opinion, since you like music that is not just contemporary, so you find a kinship with Curtis.
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yes, I do.
Let's address the elephant in the music room.
Cat Stevens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think you've already hinted you did not like the choice of it's the Cat Stevens song, "The Wind."
Right. Although it was contemporary, I think it's one of the few contemporary songs. Right. Folk song that was
Yeah. So it's interesting because they blew their budget on "The Wind." Very expensive. Payne talks about how expensive it was to buy that song for the movie, and he felt like, and it's when you do rough cuts, you always use placeholder music, and unfortunately sometimes you fall in love with what your place. So clearly they fell in love with "The Wind." So he said he blew his whole budget on "The Wind," which I thought was curious because it's been used so much, including in probably the film I'd program as a double feature with this film. Not a boarding school film, but a boys' school film. Can you name what that film is, FT?
Yes, but I'm not telling you. What is it, Ken?
Well, I'll give you a clue. It's a Wes Anderson film.
Rushmore?
Yep.
That's
yeah,
hey, well, thanks.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Hey, way to go.
Good job.
Yeah.
Well, you doubt yourself. You're like, I'm not.
I don't remember this stuff. And you ask me
Right.
these questions, and I'm like,
Right.
I don't know. I freeze. I go,
I know what you don't. I know that you know what you don't know. What you think you don't know.
Perfect.
Should we move on to actors?
Yeah, but just not much to say because they were all fantastic. For me.
Well, let's maybe there were a few that we should talk about. Maybe Paul Giamatti. You thought he was fantastic.
Oh, you're kidding! It was a great performance.
Interesting because one of the I think one of the ways to grade a performance is asking yourself this question: could you see another actor in that role? Sorry, it was rhetorical. I really don't think. I don't.
No,
I can't really.
yeah.
I can't picture somebody else in that role.
Well, of course we could if we had to, but he was so perfect for it.
Right.
I could imagine somebody talking about an experience in school or college, and they talk about a professor like this, and he would come to mind. I mean, he was just
Right.
He was a
Right.
type. He was a perfect
Yes.
type. Yeah, it's great.
No, I also wonder, and I'm asking rhetorically again, some of those lines, like Christ on a crutch, what kind of fascist? I think a lot of other actors wouldn't be able to deliver those lines the way Giamatti does.
Well, right, maybe, but
And we say it's his birthday.
It's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, young man. Well, let's get you a slice of cake or some other age-appropriate dessert.
Christ on a crutch. What kind of a fascist hash foundry are you running here?
you and I have different views on this. I think you can get a great actor to. I can't imagine who, but I can imagine somebody. Whatever,
right.
But
Jerry,
it's great.
I could picture Jerry Lewis delivering that line.
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Right.
Christ on a crutch.
little interesting acting choice here. So Giamatti, in preparing under the heading of an actor prepares, had to decide should he actually place rotting fish in the pockets of his. Excuse me. I was starting to vomit in my mouth a little bit there. Should he place?
You're excused. You can now go to the lavatory.
No, right. No, should he was seriously debating should he place rotting fish in his sport coat's pockets? What? No, I know you don't believe actors should have smell memories.
No.
Right.
But there's other ways of doing it.
Right. So he thought about it and decided no. And the way he thought about it was under the old acting rule that if to play the king, don't act like the king. In other words, if you're going to be the king, the way to play it is you act like a normal person, but the other actors have to. It's all on how the other actors react to you.
That's right.
Yeah. Which I guess now makes no sense because then you would have thought he should have put fish in his pockets. But I guess it was a practical choice not to put fish in his pockets.
Dead fish.
By the way, has that ever happened to you, FT? Like when you're changing your clothes after you're emptying your pockets to put them in the laundry, and you find sardines or whatever.
It smelt once, yes. And one was fried, and the other one was still flipping. I lost my shit about it. It was crazy, man.
Do you want to talk about Dominic Sessa, who played young Angus Tully?
I've just marveled at his performance. I find it interesting. Did they stop the convention in the 70s of saying introducing? Remember, that was big in the 50s. Right. They would say introducing Sue Lyon or whatever.
Yes.
They stopped doing that, right? They would just, or did he make a special note?
Yes. Sorry. What you were trying to get at there, in a very roundabout way, FT, is that this was his first movie performance.
Correct.
Dominic Sessa. That's what you're trying to get at there.
No, I got at it, but I asked it obliquely. Yes.
Yes.
Introducing.
Yes. So they saw they looked at 800 audition tapes for that part.
800?
800 and came up empty. And then they did something that Payne said he had been planning to do all along, which was to go to the drama teachers at the, that was filmed at a real boys' boarding school. And in that area of Massachusetts, there are a lot of very famous boarding schools. So he had intended to go to the drama teachers of those schools and say, hey, do you have any students that you really think are great? And at one of the schools, a teacher said, "Oh, I've got this guy who's going to be a star," and that was Dominic. He had never been in front of a camera before. He'd only acted on stage.
Get out of town. Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it relates obliquely again since to Dead Poets Society, if I remember correctly. The main character, not the main character wants to be an actor.
Huh.
And it's a private school. Robin Williams is the
yes.
sort of beatnik professor.
Yes.
As I recall, I forget who the actor is. He went and did TV work. But it's just interesting that he was a good actor, in the film. But his parents did not want him. And he was going to be sent to military school, which was interesting.
Interesting.
But he commits suicide.
What do you have to say about Divine Joy Randolph playing the role of Mary Lamb?
What a job! What a great, just so relaxed and believable, and just great. I just
yeah. No, it's
fantastic.
Interesting because I went to IMDb expecting to see a curriculum vitae filled with other roles. I'd say, yeah, of course, she was so. I saw nothing in her prior roles before the Holdovers that hinted at, and I don't know, I didn't watch all those that would hint at her greatness.
Yeah, no, she's great. She should always get work. Yeah.
Carrie Preston, your thoughts?
I don't know who's that. Which character? Lydia.
Yeah, she played Lydia Crane.
Herself. I mean, she's played that part, one of the great lines, though, when she says that, what'd she say about...
So, how'd you get stuck holding over? I thought it was Mr. Endicott's here.
No, I know. I'm being punished. Dr. Woodruff is,
A pompous ass with a dictator complex? Oops. What I meant to say was, well, he's a lovely, compassionate educator with a really groovy beard.
Yeah, I liked her. She's great.
I thought she was terrific. Are you saying, FT, that you've seen her a lot? And or what are you saying?
She was familiar. Yes, she seemed familiar. She was playing a similar part. A little acting note and director's note. And the first time when she approaches Paul's room, her lipstick is so thick that it's on her teeth. I liked it. I was just like, nice, that kind of thing, Yeah. She just seemed, I don't know, I didn't look at her resume, but she seemed familiar. But she does it well, and she was really good in this,
Yeah, I thought she was good, especially in the scene on the couch with Paul at the Christmas party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On that note, speaking about couches, I'd like to go hit the couch and maybe signal an end to this episode of They Shoot Films. You up for that, FT? Can we call this one?
I think we should call this one.
Okay.
Call this one a good one.
Well, that's up for the audience to decide. And speaking of the audience, if you did like this episode of They Shoot Films, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, like the podcast, tell your friends. Any way you can keep listening. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, FT, and I bid you a good night. Have a good one.
You too. See ya.
They Shoot Films is a production of Film Symposium West, produced by Anne-Marie De Palma, studio announcer Roy Blumenfeld.